Tonight's topic: segregation in North America. One of the most important groups of activists in this desegregation movement were the Freedom Riders. Freedom Riders were a group of black and white activists that fought for the rights of colored people in terms of public transportation. They had a series of bus trips through the American South to protest segregation in interstate bus terminals. African American Freedom Riders tried to use whites-only restrooms and lunch counters and vice versa. There were a series of attacks and violence towards these activists. In May 1961, a mob firebombed a bus of Freedom Riders outside Anniston, Alabama, and attacked passengers as they tried to escape. The violence provoked exactly what the Freedom Riders wanted. Newspapers through the nation and abroad denounced the beatings. President Kennedy arranged to give the Freedom Riders direct support. The Justice Department sent 400 U.S. Marshals to protect the riders on the last part of their journey to Jackson, Mississippi. In addition, the Attorney General of the Interstate Commerce Commission banned segregation in all interstate travel facilities, including waiting rooms, restrooms, and lunch counters. Long-term effects of the protests and actions by the Freedom Riders led to an equal society, respecting ethnical descent and belief. These facts were the ones that started desegregation in North America. People from all around the country realized that everyone should be equal and started fighting for their rights in different ways as well. With the situation in progress, the government realized it was unconstitutional and against the 14th Amendment of the United States.
Well, there's a river that runs through Glasgow, and it makes her, but it breaks her and takes her into paths. And a current just like my blood flow down from the hills, round aching bones to my restless heart.
The last theme for the night is the Freedom Summer. In 1964, CORE and SNCC workers in the South began registering as many African Americans as they could to vote. They hoped their campaign would receive national publicity, which would in turn influence Congress to pass a Voting Rights Act. Focused on Mississippi, the project became known as the Freedom Summer. To fortify the project, civil rights groups recruited college students and trained them to involve resistance. Thousands of students, volunteers, mostly white, about one-third female, went into Mississippi to help register voters. For some, the job proved deadly. In June 1964, 3 civil rights workers disappeared in Neshoba County, Mississippi. Investigations later learned that Klansmen and local police had murdered the men, 2 of whom were white. Through the summer, the racial beatings and murders continued, along with the burning of business homes and churches. African Americans need. At the start of 1965, the SCLC conducted a major voting rights campaign in Selma, Alabama, where the SNCC had been working for 2 years to register voters. By the end of 1965, more than 2,000 African Americans had been arrested in SCLC demonstrations. After a demonstrator named Jimmy Lee Jackson was shot and killed, King responded by announcing a 50-mile protest march from Selma to Montgomery, the state capital. On March 7, 1965, about 600 protesters set out for Montgomery. That night, mayhem broke out. Television cameras captured the scene, the rest of the nation watching horror as police sweeps and clouds of tear gas reared around fallen marches. Demonstrators poured into Selma by the hundreds. That summer, Congress finally passed Johnson's Voting Rights Act of 1965. The act eliminated the so-called literacy test that had disqualified many voters. It also started that federal examinators could enroll voters who had been denied suffrage by local officials. In Selma, the proportion of African Americans registered to vote rose from 10% in 1964 to 60% in 1968. Overall, the percentage of registered African American voters in the South tripled. Although the Voting Rights Act marked a major civil rights victory, some felt that the law did not go far enough. Centuries of discrimination had produced social and economic inequalities. Anger over these inequalities led to a series of violent disturbances in the cities of the North.